Good morning everyone, Justin here, and today we are going to be drawing a rose using a pencil. In this case I'm using a Sanford Design Ebony pencil, which you can buy today under the brand name Prismacolor, but still call it an Ebony pencil. It's a fairly dark black graphite pencil. Depending on the paper that you're going to be using, you can get fairly dark blacks. In this situation I'm using a Canson mixed media sketch pad. So getting back to this, I'm using the same reference picture that I used prior, where I used a ballpoint pen and a micron pen, I believe, to do a one-line drawing of this rose. But today we're going to concentrate on doing a pencil drawing using some shading. I'm going to try to make this a little bit more realistic than the prior tutorials. So here I'm laying down the basic shapes first. And take your time with this. This usually takes me the longest time as well, as far as trying to get the proportions correct. Feel free to erase as needed. As usual, I start usually at the center and work my way out using previous areas as my reference as far as how big the next petals will be, for example, and where they lay in relation to what I've already drawn. So once I have that down, I'm now at the stage of shading, and here I'm just putting down some of the midtones initially, and then while I'm in this area I'll go ahead and put in some of the darker shadows. Now I'll sometimes try to go ahead and draw it in a radiating fashion from the center of the flower, but in this case it's not as necessary, just because I'm using a blending stump, as you can see here, to blend in the darks with the midtones. Now what I will sometimes do is, for the really bright highlights, I will use a white pencil to make it a little bit whiter. Now this paper isn't pure white, it's a little bit gray, so if you really want highlights you can always use a white, say, colored pencil or a pastel pencil. We'll avoid that today, and I'll try to keep the really bright highlights just the color of the paper. And after I get that first petal, I'll just go ahead and go basically usually from left to right, just so I can avoid smudging whatever I've already done. So here, this is what I was talking about as far as drawing radiating lines. Now some of these will still show up even after I do the blending, so that's why I did it here. Now there are other parts of this rose that I will probably not do this, just because I feel like it doesn't show up quite enough to make it worthwhile, and I'll just use whatever way to get some color onto the paper. So use varying pressure on the pencil to get your varying tones. Heaviest pressure, of course, on the darker tones. Now you could also use several, 2 or 3, 4 different levels of softness of your pencil, just to get some really dark darks without having to vary the pressure on the pencil as much. I prefer to use just one pencil for the most part for a lot of my pencil drawings, but use whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you'd like. Notice that at the bottom left of this rose, I've got a fairly dark area there that really sticks out from the rest. Now I hope I'll notice that later and try to even it out a little bit. So I'll go ahead and shade the rest of the rose in the same similar fashion. And once I'm all done, I'll go ahead and, as I mentioned, try to even out the tones a little bit more, so that one area isn't any darker, for example, for the same shade as other areas. So just take your time here. Now sometimes I'll take the liberty of changing how the light falls and perhaps make the back areas a little bit darker, just because they're further back. It totally depends on how you want to do this. If you want it to be exact, just like your reference picture, then of course you'll want to try to achieve more realistic, more representative shading. So as I mentioned in a previous video, I usually get a lot of my reference pictures from a website called Pixabay, which are free, non-copyright site where you can use those pictures for whatever use you want, including these videos. So feel free to go on that website and check them out, and I have no affiliate with them at all. So it's just a website that I find has a lot of pictures that I don't have to worry about with running into copyright laws. So here you can see how I initially put in some of the shading with marks that were not radial to the petal, just to be able to get the pencil marks onto the paper a little bit faster, just like right here, knowing that I'm going to be shading that anyway, and most of those pencil marks will disappear. So when you have time, check out the other videos where I draw the same reference rose in different ways, including a ballpoint pen and one-line pen drawing. And I'm also going to be drawing this rose on gray toned paper using a pencil for the darks and a white pastel pencil for the highlights, and using the gray tone as the middle values. So it's good to experiment, use different materials, definitely try to draw different subject matter, and whatever you draw will always help you become better as an artist. So thanks a lot for watching. I will leave here and I'll see you next time. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and got something out of it. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.